and a tit-for-tat back and forth. You're not really degrading their capability. So my sense, from his tweets, from Zarif's tweets, is that he's going to kind of take a de-escalatory tone, sort of declare some sort of victory in terms of Soleimani dead for a couple of failed missile strikes.
All right, David Sears laying it out for us. We'll hear from the president himself shortly. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks, Sandra.
Coming up now on about 9:30 East Coast time, foreign policy. It's now front and center in this presidential race. Democratic candidates taking aim at the president, and they're also taking aim at each other, frankly, as we await to hear from the president from the White House. The DNC communications director is our guest live coming up after this. Sharply unchanged picture for the Dow. At the open, they're up about 6 points, bouncing around, but pretty even now as we try and gauge the reaction for investors as they look at that, and also the price of oil. It spiked over the weekend, came back a little bit right now, and appears to have stabilized. So that is your measure of how a lot of big money people.
That's the picture now, but when this all happened last night, you had an extreme reaction in the futures overnight. You had a sell-off in stocks. Gold spiked. That's sort of a safe haven in the markets. And then the calm set in after the president's tweet, no American casualties. So we'll see what happens when the president talks a short time from now. Markets will be watching.
My heart and my prayers are with our military and with their families in Iraq and all around the world. But this is a reminder why we need to de-escalate tension in the Middle East. The American people do not want a war with Iran.
Well, that was Elizabeth Warren following last night's missile strikes by Iran as foreign policy now takes center stage on the campaign trail. So how will all of this figure in long term in the 2020 presidential race? Joining us now, DNC Communications Director Sochi Hinojosa. Sochi, good morning to you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
As now foreign policy is clearly emerging as a top priority on the campaign trail, which of the candidates are strongest on foreign policy?
Well, I think that you have heard all of the candidates talk about how this was a bad actor. He was someone who is going after Americans, and I think no one mourns the loss of his life. I think you're also hearing people on the campaign trail talk about how we must de-escalate, and no one wants a war. That is very clear right now. But I think that what is even more nerve-wracking for Americans is that we don't know what the plan is. We don't know what the plan is moving forward. This president hasn't consulted with Congress, hasn't shown them the intelligence yet. And so I think that all across the board, our candidates right now are showing the American people how they would be better on foreign policy. They would be an even hand compared to Donald Trump. And I think that is exactly right. This is a scary time in our country. I think that I have heard from friends and relatives all across the country right now. They don't like the uncertainty. They don't like what President Trump is doing to our country.
Okay, so but do they like what Bernie Sanders, does Bernie Sanders taking on Joe Biden on his foreign policy track record? Do they like Joe Biden's past vote on Iraq? Is that going to be a problem for him?
They like a steady hand. That's exactly what they want. They want a steady hand. And right now, what you're seeing candidates talk about who will be best at commander-in-chief. And any of our candidates right now would be better than Donald Trump. Any of our candidates would have a cabinet, a full cabinet and full intelligence community around them, and they would consult with intelligence community and Congress instead of making rash decisions and potentially having no plan. What Donald Trump did was he made us less safe, and it's unclear after last night what will happen.
We're going to hear from the president shortly, but looking specifically at these candidates, because they seem to be taking each other on and who is best suited on foreign policy. Pete Buttigieg seems to be owning his military experience. Could that be a winning option for him?
Well, that'll be up to the voters. I think that right now we're less than a month away from the Iowa caucus, and given that foreign policy is front and center, given that healthcare is front and center, I have no doubt that caucus goers and primary voters in the next few weeks will be making their decision on who has the best healthcare plan, who is the best on foreign policy, all of these issues. And so we will see that from the American people. But I have no doubt that there will be a lot of enthusiasm on the Democratic side because people right now are scared and they want a president with an even hand.
I want to play this sound from Joe Manchin. He joined us earlier on this program. He was also on Fox yesterday before the strike happened, talking about his own party and how Democrats have reacted to all of this. Here's Joe Manchin.
The president is charged and has the responsibility to keep America safe. If there's an imminent threat, he has the ability and the authority to act. I don't dispute that whatsoever. I don't think anyone should dispute that. But it is not his responsibility to take us to war unless Congress approves it.
All right. So moving on from that, as we await the president, I want to ask you about the state of the race. You look at the Real Clear Politics average polling in Iowa. You see that Bernie Sanders is the front runner there, polling 22%. What happens next as we walk our way further into 2020?
Well, we'll see what happens when people start voting in just a short month. I think that you have very important contests coming up. We will have record turnout in those states. And I want to also remind your viewers that, when the race is about, yes, you have to, to win Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina and Nevada. All of those are important states, but we will be looking at delegates and the number of delegates that people get out of these races. And that's what's important. And out of the first 4 early states, right now you're seeing that's only 5% of delegates. So if you want to win the Democratic nomination, you have to have a strategy that is beyond the first 4 early states. 50% of the delegates are after Super Tuesday. That is a lot of delegates.
I'm running out of time. Is Bernie Sanders the nominee?
We don't know who the nominee is. That will be up to the voters.
Away from Joe Biden. He's getting hit from all sides. Could Elizabeth Warren gain some momentum? Final thoughts.
The beauty of our primary is that this isn't about the DNC. This is about the voters, and the voters will decide who our nominee is, and you have to have a ground game in order to get those votes.
All right, Sochi and Jose, I appreciate your time this morning from the DNC.
Thanks so much for having me.
Another big story hasn't left our attention. Fox News alert now. Deadly fires have done extensive damage in Australia. These new satellite images show the smoke from the fires over South America, 7,000 miles away. 23 people killed. Countless animals are feared dead in the fires. And now the country's Army veterans pitching in to help those who have survived.
The poor little fellas have got lots of burns, so their hands are really burnt. Some have burns to their noses and their face. They've got a lot of singed fur, and a lot also have some injuries to their lungs.
So the world's top tennis players now coming together to play charity matches ahead of this month's Australian Open. Funds raised from the games will go toward relief and recovery efforts. They are bringing a lot of money in to help a lot of people who need it, and they are not done yet.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, as we mentioned, we are awaiting the president after Iran struck bases with U.S. forces in them. What is next for the president? And the next move will be broadcast from the White House shortly.
Also, Sandra, this story broke on our watch yesterday. The estranged husband of a missing Connecticut mother of 5. He is now facing a murder charge 7 months after she disappeared. We've got a legal panel. We'll tell you about the latest developments in the case of Jennifer Dulos.
The state of Connecticut has
slow at your pace, speed it up, I know you want to. Got my hands on your waist, you can tell that I want you. I can keep up with you, babe. No other man can do what I do. I can see it on your face, now you know. I gotta tell you I'm feeling your style. I can tell that you're wild, nobody can deny you. The baddest thing gon' turn the club on. I see the way you want it on your waist. Baby, let them know you're number one in any place. No other man can keep on with the pace. Now you have to tell me where you get the shape. Know your body moving to the bass. Baby, let them know you're number one in any place. No other man can keep up with the pace. Can you make me wanna do it on and on and on? She got me with the yeah. Dirty on me with the yeah. All of the time that it take for me. No, don't you mistake on me. Now she screaming to come back. And she dance to the one track. And she know I roll on the low. Long as you can keep on the low. Oh no. I seen the way you want it on your waist. Baby, let them know you're number one in any place. No other man can keep on with the pace. fantasies so I can see what we gon' do. We alone, you and me. I can make it come true. And when I get it in, I'ma get the top and let you ain't had it and made it now flex. Time to undress her. Now you know that I gotta tell you, girl, I'm feeling your style. I can tell that you're wild. Nobody can deny the baddest thing gon' turn the club on. I seen the way you want it on your waist. Baby, let them know you're number one in all the place. No other man can keep on with the pace. Girl, you know you have to tell me where you get the shape. The way your body moving to the pace. Baby, let them know you're number one in all the place. No other man can keep up with the pace. Girl, you do it on and on and on.
Lizzie bad, never ever let me down. Lizzie be all in my town. Lizzie be getting around. Shawty been doing it all. Everybody tryna get her. I got her filling my pockets. I'm the only one that hit it. Lizzie, she my queen, yeah. Don't need no reason. This way. Talking about my bitch. That gon' get you up in treason. Pull up no matter the season. Flip it then back up, we leaving. Lizzie the only one that got me up all in my feelings. Lizzie bad, slim, thick. It don't matter where she been. I got bands, she got love. I might spin her with my bros. She get eyes, she get hugs. On the floor around the pole. Lizzie really about to show me just how far a stripper go. I might spin her with my bros. I got bands, she got love. Lizzie really about to show. She get eyes, she get hugs. I might spin her with my bros. I might spin her. I might spin her with my bros. With my bros.
Hotline ring and I know that it's iffy. Ops and the ends real gritty, but I still come slide for your city. While you lying in bed stressed out, FaceTime on my phone cause you miss me. I got a line, pretend I'm at home when I'm out here riding with Lizzie. Trust me, it's busy, fuck, but they can't stop him cause the trap got him like sex positions. Now he's back shotting, it's off of my ear, no bats, robins. I got bags, boxes for these mad shotters. It's me and Lizzie on the lick, send her out with bags, she bring me back a brick. She with me in this bitch, she been with me from the 01 to the 6.
Slim, thick, it don't matter where she been. I got bands, she got love. I might spin her with my bros. She get hugs, she get hugs. On the floor around the pole. Lizzie really about to show me just how far a stripper go. I might spin her with my bros. I got bands, she got love. Lizzie really about to show. She get eyes, she get hugs. I might spin her with my bros. Spin her. I might spin her with my bros. With my bros. Show me. Lizzie really about to show me. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Show me. Lizzie really about to show me.
I'm not leaving without you.
She got a body like a new Bugatti, dancing like a thotty. All she wanna do is party. Shake it, girl, don't hurt nobody. Take it while I work your body. Damn, you got the perfect body. Lord Almighty, I'm just being honest, no lie. And girl, you such a hottie that your body on fire. Put your body on mine. Give it to me one time, girl. Please don't give your body to nobody else tonight. Your body's all mine. Let go.
I got my hands on your body. I don't know what it is, but you got it. I don't care if everybody watching. We can do it